Hey guys, what's up? Zogojo Detective here, investigating your favorite animes, and this is going to be a very special video. Right now it's actually 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and as expected, I'm not asleep. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is to rewatch Evangelion. Um, Maybe about a year and a half ago, I watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, by Anno Hideaki, and I I did a review, but it was scoreless. I didn't give a score, and that's because I feel like I didn't fully grasp it, and I didn't even know if I enjoy it or not. Maybe it's because I went into the anime with too high of an expectations. Everybody's been saying, "Oh my God, Evangelion is the most mind-bending, it's the most emotionally traumatizing thing ever," and I watched it, and I'm like, okay. I'm waiting all the way until this year to rewatch it. And another thing is on March 17th, I will be watching the End of Evangelion on the big screen. So in order to prepare for that, I'm gonna rewatch the whole freaking thing. And right now it's March 12th, technically 11th. So what am I gonna do is I'm gonna watch Evangelion every single day, and after every single episode, I'm just gonna talk about my quick thoughts a little bit in here. Um, and let's see if my thoughts and feelings about Evangelion has changed at all. So right now, I'm actually gonna watch episodes 2 to 6. I rewatched the pilot episode last night. Let's just say it's pretty good as far as anime pilot episodes go, especially anime from the 90s. It's honestly not a bad pilot episode at all. It's got the mood, it's got the vibe, and I'm looking forward to the rest. Oh my god, oh my god, it's episode 2! Okay, so I finally finished watching Evangelion episode 4, and I have some thoughts on rewatching the first 4 episodes. First of all, the first 4 episodes are not bad. The first time I watched it, I liked them. Now that I'm watching them again, I still like them, and I totally understand why. I think the first 2 episodes just set up the tone of the series really well. There's just this kind of disconnection, this coldness, um, that is not only very rare for 90s anime to begin with, and also rare for modern animes too, by the way, but also just the. I originally, when I watched Evangelion the first time, I didn't like that they threw all these phrases around like AT field and third impact. Like, what does these phrases even mean? Rewatching it again makes me think that Ano Hideaki doesn't want us to focus on that part of the lore because it's unimportant. And yeah, there are so many moments in especially on episode 3 that made me realize that Shinji was already depressed in the beginning. And I sort of know that. I knew that when I watched the first time, but it was even more apparent that it doesn't really matter if he piloted the Ava or not, because either way, he's depressed and maybe suicidal. There's a scene near the end of episode 3 where he basically um, helps 2 of his classmates by putting them into his Ava, and then he starts. Misato told him to retreat, and he's like, "I can't run, I can't run, I can't run." So he starts screaming, and if you judge that scene by itself in terms of story and plot, it's like, okay, he's screaming because he's afraid or angry or whatever. But if you look at it in a more psychological lens, you would think that Shinji isn't just screaming out of fear and anger. Shinji's screaming as if he has his entire life's worth of pain and suffering, and and I guess stabbing that angel's eyeball is a cathartic way of letting all that pain and anger be released, which is something that you would see in someone who suffers from depression, or maybe other mental disorders, because those people usually cannot verbalize their feelings, but what they can do is randomly be angry at something and do something cathartic about that. So that moment really hit me like, oh, wow. So this scream means a lot. So after that, I begin to look at scenes in a more psychological context and not really in the context of the story. So I finish episode 4, and there's this scene. By the way, beautiful composition. There's a foreground, there's a background here. It's amazing, and it's just a freaking JPEG. Like, it's not moving at all. But this is beautiful because, in terms of the story, it's nothing. It's just Misato and Shinji reconciling right here. But from a more psychological standpoint, I feel like this is Ano Hideaki giving us a glimpse of hope. Like, hey, maybe it doesn't have to be all disconnected, but this is all done in the context of there will be more pain and suffering, because he's going to go back to piloting the Ava, and it's almost like this is a loop. This cycle of sadness and pain just doesn't stop. It's basically infinite. So this, we're arguing and now we're coming back together and then we're arguing. It's just this, there's something hopeless about it. So I'm really appreciating it. Alright, I just finished watching Evangelion episode 16, and yeah, I think episodes 7 to 15 have been fun and games for the most part, and I mean, I'm less bored by them now. The first time I watched them, I felt kind of bored, but now I just see it as, a lot of 90s anime follow the same Monster of the Week formula, so Evangelion sort of following the same, but then we have the occasional, oh, maybe the kids are depressed. Especially with Asuka's introduction, which the first time I watched Asuka's introduction, I thought it was really underwhelming. The second time I watched it, I thought that Ano Hideaki really put an emphasis on Asuka's pride, and sort of that's like her entire personality. But then we see this moment where she was crying while she was sleeping, saying "Mama, Mama, Mama," and that's also when Shinji tried to kiss her. I thought that was a really thought provoking moment, like a glimpse of who she really is. But it is episode 16 right here, where Shinji, where something really interesting is happening, because Shinji is almost living through his entire life, and all he remembers is moments where people will yell at him or hate him. Rei slapping him, or Asuka laughing at him, or his father disapproving him, and it's sort of like cognitive distortion, and he doesn't think very highly of himself. And it's almost like this existential moment where he asks himself, why am I piloting this Ava in the first place? If it's for my father's praise or if it's for myself, is my worth this small actually? And I would put my life out there just to be praised by someone like that when my entire life just feels like a lie, which is definitely a very introspective moment in the story. So I'm really glad that I finally entered the second half of Evangelion where all the psychological shit happens. Okay, I'm currently on episode 22 of Evangelion, and Wow, it's really starting to get really interesting. I'm still not as emotionally affected as some people are. Kaji's voicemail scene is supposed to be, which is at the end of episode 21, it's supposed to be a really tragic moment. I see that it's sad, but it didn't really hit me that much, unfortunately. But what I can say though is that, the way Asuka's psychology is unfolded on episode 22 is actually way better than I'd last remembered. This is the very famous elevator scene between Asuka and Day, and it's ingenious for Ano Hideaki to pull off such a long scene. Um, Second of all, I just think I don't know. I feel like maybe I know someone in real life who acts like Asuka. Maybe I don't, but there's something about a person who acts all prideful and arrogant in real life, but is actually hurting inside. It's such a universal thing that the world has a lot of people like that, and so seeing it sort of unfold in anime is actually kind of kind of crazy. Also, want to point out the use of repetition in order to emotionally affect the audience, which is really cool as well. It's almost religious because a lot of religious themes, religious stories, or stories related to religion also involve a lot of repetition. So I see where this is going. All right, so I just finished watching the entire Evangelion. I did skip around, but I was able to get the most gist of it. And yeah, wow, the ending of Evangelion, episodes 24, 25, and 26 are way better than I had remembered. But also this time around, I don't see it as a story, I see it more as an artistic expression. And especially episodes 24 and 25 is essentially 40 something minutes of just psychological diatribe. All the pain and torment, and all the thoughts that Ano Hideaki had, all vomited onto the script, and it's so it's so important for him to get these words out that he realizes that a story is not even needed. A story, an ending, a plot, real characters with conflict and struggles, these things are not important anymore. And at this point, the animation just breaks down. It just turns into simple sketches. At one point, we even see the script itself. There's a moment in episode 26 where we go into a parallel timeline where Shinji lives with a happy family and he goes to school. And I actually almost cried during that part because there have been so many points in my life where I imagined a happier parallel timeline, and that's kind of a relatable moment for me. And I don't know, episode 24 in particular is also such a powerful and just insane ending for the story. Not that it's insane in terms of destruction. It's not like the world is completely laid flat by the end, but it's insane in terms of what it's trying to say. Um, and Kaoru, the only person who is friendly and who Shinji was able to be intimate with, turns out to be an angel himself. So yeah, I'm impressed. All right, we're here. The Dash bus stop. I don't want to be late. Please show up, please. Welcome to downtown LA. This is the hotel we stayed in back in 2016 summer. Regal. This is it. Okay, this is it. I wonder what movie are we watching? Huh. Okay, I couldn't find my QR code, but thank God. I got my phone number and everything, and they confirmed it, so now I have the ticket. Fuck yeah. Oh my God, it's happening. Oh my God, I hope there are commercial ads. I hope there are ads. I don't want to miss anything. It's 89 minutes long. It's not started yet, thank God.
Here's for the first time ever.
Oh?
手を開いても構わん。そうだ。右の状況は。
Alright, just finished watching the End of Evangelion. I'm waiting for my bus. Holy fuck, that movie is even crazier than I thought it is. Oh my god. Okay, I was gonna head home, but I thought to myself, well, I need some groceries, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy some stuff in H Mart while I'm at Koreatown. Yeah. Alright, so I just came back home, and I guess in some ways this is going to be the review of the End of Evangelion. I'm just gonna go off and talk a little bit. It's a very unorganized review. I don't have a script beside me or anything. If you want to see the more organized review of it, you may have to wait for me to write something on Letterboxd. But first of all, holy shit, this is one of the craziest cinematic experiences I've ever experienced, I think. The last time I watched a film in the theaters that sort of blew my mind and made me feel like I just went through a religious experience was 2001: A Space Odyssey. In fact, I think Neon Genesis Evangelion, The End of Evangelion, is a film unlike any other films I've ever seen. But the closest thing I can compare this to is 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it is similarly emotionally intense and religious and spiritual. But 2001: A Space Odyssey comes from a more philosophical place, while The End of Evangelion comes from a very painful, tortured place. So essentially, The End of Evangelion replaces episodes 25 and 26 of the original series, and the way I would describe the difference between the two endings is the series ends in a tell, don't show way. Tell and don't show at all, and have characters talk their feelings out through pure dialogue and with visuals to accompany it, but really the main dish is dialogues. And The End of Evangelion is show and don't tell at all. There are moments of dialogues where characters basically unveil deep parts of their minds, but for the most part we have extreme violence and destruction, lots of screaming, crying, bleeding, and that is a manifestation of the thoughts and feelings that Ano Hideaki had when he wrote and directed this. And this is even harder than the series ending. I feel like this requires a sense of visuals to it, a sense of feeling that you don't need as much for the series ending. I also have some watermelon here. I'm hungry as hell. So I guess I'm just going to refer to these two episodes as 25 Prime and 26 Prime because they've been referred to that way. So 25 Prime literally exactly picks up where 24 leaves off. It basically feels like another Evangelion episode, which I'm glad I rewatched the series before watching this, because normally in a film, especially films that are very critically acclaimed, I would look for things like the story or the character development. But knowing how Evangelion is, I know I'm just going to be in for more destruction and bureaucracy and insane science, and that's basically that in the beginning. So the beginning of episode 25 Prime didn't really blow my mind. It's not like an epic opening or anything, with the exception of the hospital scene where, and it's iconic, Shinji jerking off to Asuka, who was in a coma. And this is also when I realized that because this is a film and not an episode that is aired on TV, Ano Hideaki had more freedom to just show sex and violence. So there's a lot of nudity in this episode. There's Misato having sex again, but this time we see the legs instead of just hearing her. Rei was basically naked 99% of the times in this film. Um, and so much more violent. Jesus Christ, like arms chopped off and you see bones hanging out, organs spilling out, blood spurting. It's so much more graphic. And also in the original series, no one dies. Aside from the angels. I guess if you don't count Kaoru, basically not a single character dies. You know, you have Toji, who you would think, okay, he's probably dead, but no, he doesn't die. And then near the end, Asuka doesn't die either, even though she had a near-death experience. So nobody dies in this original series. Everyone fucking dies in the film. It's like Ano Hideaki waited so long for this film to happen so that he can basically kill off everyone. And there, Asuka's death was sort of spoiled to me, but I didn't know her death would be this dramatic and this disgusting. I also wish that Asuka's comeback, you know, she went from curled up in a ball crying, you know, I'm worthless, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, to mother, witness me, mother, witness me. And that transition was a little fast. I wish it would take a while, but it's just a very minor complaint. Asuka goes on a rampage and kills a bunch of white Evas, white evil Evas, and she loses and she just gets ripped apart and split in half. And then Shinji sees that, and that's when you have the iconic scream with a fisheye lens and pull back, and then he just screams. And holy fuck, I think it's one of the first times where Evangelion actually emotionally affected me. There are a lot of devastating moments in the series, but I felt kind of distant from it. Maybe it's because this one is actually real death, but also kind of because the visuals and the music, the way they all build up, it's just the most intense. And then it just ends off like that, and then we have this swirly end credits, which is just kind of jazzy and laid back, and it's kind of weird. And it's interesting because some people were like, wait, did the movie just end? And I checked my phone, and it's like, no, wait, it can't end like that. It cannot end like that. It doesn't feel like an ending, and also it's only been like 40 minutes. So after the end credits, we have episode 26 Prime, which is just pure fucking madness. It's just basically hell in cinematic form. It's just pure hell. I've never seen a single film that depicts hell this well. And it's not even hell, but it's the third impact. But it basically is hell, because every single shot, every single image you see is just so traumatizing and beautiful and disgusting and spiritual and psychotic and violent and disturbing and groundbreaking. Literally, it's a feast of blood and flesh. And it's just absolutely insane. We have Rei, where she basically becomes not a human at this point. She's just this supernatural form, and Gendo Ikari basically diving his hand into her body, which is again crazy because it's nudity. Also, it's an old guy touching a small girl, which is very uncomfortable. And then the girl just turns into a giantess as large as the planet Earth itself. Yeah, yeah. And then we have these 9 white evil Avas that form that basically abduct Shinji in Unit 01 and form a fucking Metatron with Hebrew written on it on the sky. Like if I see that in the sky right now, I would be like, okay, yes, the world is ending. We're all gonna die. This is the most biblical shit I've seen. The most accurate depiction of what reading the book of Revelation feels like. This is even worse than the book of Revelations. Um, and then we have essentially the world ending, and that sequence is basically just as intense as the Stargate sequence in 2001, but 20 times more violent. Um, you know, everyone dies. Everyone just explodes and turns into orange goo. And at this point, you would think, okay, well, it's just violence that is meaningless. But there's also a lot of underlying guilt and hatred and anger. But instead of guilt, hatred, and anger from Shinji, it was more like guilt, hatred, and anger from Ano Hideaki. Because at some point in this film, you already realize that it's not really about the characters and more of just Ano Hideaki going absolutely insane when he's writing the script. He just went off the rails. He just doesn't care anymore. And I don't know, it's just crazy. And it's made in 1997. And then we have the ending. Giant Ray's head getting split in half on an ocean full of blood, or LCL, whatever it is. And then it's just like 2 giant Avas like doing this, like T posing. I mean, crucified. And it's just this really beautiful imagery of like the sky is blue and the ocean is red. Again, very biblical. And it was just Shinji choking Asuka for one last time. But Asuka, in response, caresses Shinji's cheek. And maybe both of them have died, maybe both of them are somehow alive, even though clearly Asuka died. Maybe at this point, reality doesn't even matter. This is all in Shinji's head before he dies. I don't know. But this is the ending, because this is the final message that the film wants to give, and that is, in a world full of hopelessness and pain and suffering, all you need is a bit of love. Fuck! I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And also, I forgot to mention the live action sequence. You know, when animes randomly show live action stuff, you know the anime is fucking insane. Like, Bakemonogatari did it, the Tatami Galaxy did it, the series, that is Evangelion, did it at the very end, but the End of Evangelion basically broke that rule with full fucking force. We have literal footage of Tokyo, the city, the people, the crowd. There's even that one shot where we're in this narrow walkway full of people, and we just see 3 people cosplaying as Rei, Asuka, and Shinji in human form. This is crazy. This reminds me of like the OP, the live action OP to Hanekawa Tsubasa's arc in Bakemonogatari, where we actually see a girl cosplaying as that character, but now it's part of that anime, because this anime is beyond fiction. It is about reality. It is about the world we, the audience, live in. Speaking of which, then Ano Hideaki decides to show footage of the audience, actual people watching the film in the theater. What the fuck? It's like staring in the mirror. Some people behind me were laughing, and they're so fucking annoying because they laugh all the time. It's not a fucking funny movie, man. It's not fucking funny. But that moment is crazy. I've seen movies that break the fourth wall. I've seen films that literally reminds us that we're watching a film. You know, Paprika did it with that ingenious scene, but that reminds me of Man with a Movie Camera, which is this 1929 Soviet experimental film where we literally see the audience sitting and we're watching the audience like a mirror. And this is Ano Hideaki's way of saying, hey, you're watching it, watch me. Watch you. Watch yourself watching this film. Because this film is about all of you. And it's about everyone. And I got goosebumps during that sequence. There's also another sequence, I think it was 25 Prime, when we have this fuzzy, like, faux camcorder footage. It's just absolutely insane how much is packed into these 87 minutes. Like, it's just unbelievable. I don't know what the hell I've witnessed. It feels like a religious experience. And, yeah, there's no real beautiful solution to this. At the end of the day, it's still extremely cynical and hateful and empty and depressing of a film. But I think Ano Hideaki uh, adding one final message in that film is just mind blowing. And I feel really lucky to be able to watch this on the big screen, and I have no words. This is a fucking masterpiece. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10. Yeah, it is just, I don't know, a religious experience. So, have you watched the End of Evangelion? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.